Hey guys, how's it going? VaulSC here. We are going to take a look at a game of infiNity between the Onyx contact force, the sectorial of the combined army, up against Yujing, the vanilla classic faction, and it's going to be a battle of hunting party, a weird and wonderful mission which I'll talk about soon. So, by the way, thanks for watching my coverage the other week of the INZO tournament. Sorry that it got a little bit dramatic and salty at the end there. Today's game, it's still going to be dramatic, it's still going to be really jammy, but hopefully a lot more lighthearted. So, welcome to the Bat Rep, Onyx versus Yujing. One interesting thing that happened last weekend at the tournament was that our buddy Galen came up from Hamilton, and he came with a big box of terrain, which belonged to our other friend Steve. And we had played on Steve's terrain a couple of times before the previous tournament, and at his place down in the other town, about an hour's drive south of where I live. And it's like a spaceship interior terrain, which I commented was really, really cool. He'd done a great job laser cutting it himself and designing it. So they show up at the tournament, and he gives me this whole box of terrain and says, "Dude, do you want this terrain? You can have it." I was blown away. I did want it. Like, what a great gift. And later on, I messaged him on Facebook Messenger, and I said, "Dude, like, can I at least give you $100 for it?" And he was like, No, just paint it up, put it in the bat reps." So that's what I'm gonna do. I just for the last few months have been thinking about actually, starting a new terrain project. I was seriously thinking about going to Terracotta or Warsenal or Deviga, however you say the name, and actually buying a whole table load of the stuff and using that as my next hobby project and painting it up. But now I don't have to. In the short term, I've got something new. So I'll just take a quick look at what's going on here. Let me just get a photo of this thing up and ready for you. So it's pretty simple stuff. It's not like professionally, done from Warsenal, like that kind of stuff. But what you can see here is that he's made a lot of these little walls with various different designs, and it's got a little hook which you can clip into these, I'll show you them in a moment, these little pillars which you place around the battlefield to create a network. So it's very modular. On the weekend after the tournament, after I had this terrain set up, I went down to my local gaming store and I bought a can of like Space Wolf Grey, which is this color you're seeing here. I don't think it was actually the Games Workshop product spray paint. It was, I think, from Army Painter, but same color, and sprayed up most of the walls with that. And then I went down to the department store and just picked up a really cheap and dirty bottle of just grey spray paint to have an offset color against that, so that there's a bit more of a bit less of a mono color there, monochrome. So these things here, there's a whole box full of them, and I've spray painted them with the dark grey, and the little holes in the side allow you to just slot in the walls. So you can see here that the bits here just slot in, perfect. And the doors are actually openable, so you can open them and shut them. So if you want to play a game where they can be activated, you can. I prefer to just play them open, just because you need to keep the table a bit more open. And I'm going to be coming in with a paintbrush later on and actually doing the little control pad you can see here and some of the panels with some other silver and bronze sort of colors, just to make it a bit more lively and detailed. So yeah, he's put some work into this. The reason why he's given it to me is he's made a whole new set of it, and he's learned during the process, and he's just made it better. So he's got an even better set of this for himself. But I'm just having a blast, like a kid in a candy store, with this stuff, just because I love having new terrain. I mean, you've seen my bat reps over the last 4 years. I've just been playing on the same scenery again and again and again. So that's going to be really, really cool. But I was talking to my friends about this table, and we were thinking, like, the last few times we played games on this table when they set it up for us, he used every bit of terrain he possibly could, and he made this maze, which was very dense. If you've got jammers, if you've got, pretters, if you've got anything that works well in a tight space, that's going to be too powerful. So we were talking about it, and we were wondering, how can we set up this table in a way that is conducive to a good balanced game of infiNity, where HMGs and snipers are still going to be relevant, but you'll still have the short-range stuff, just like a good infiNity table should be. So in the game I'm about to show you, that'll be my first attempt at actually doing that. And I think what you're about to witness is me actually taking the table a step further compared to what it used to be when they set it up for us, in the sense that the lines of sight and the openness of the table will be much better, and it's actually possible to achieve that kind of thing with this table setup. So we'll take a look at that. Just before we jump into the game, I may as well show you my list. I'm running Onyx Contacts Force for this one, as I said. This is a fairly generic list, and part of the reason I'm running this list is because I want to test the table, right? So I've got my Plasma Sniper in there, I've got the Q-Drone HMG, I've got the Noctifer missile launcher. These are models which fire long range very, very well, and I want to see whether they are nerfed and underpowered on this table if I have to put a lot of walls out there. I've got a Samaritan Spitfire, love the model, and the thing about this guy is that he functions well at mid-range. We're going to see whether he gets a lot of angles on this table, but also he's the kind of model that thrives on walking through a corridor, encountering no arrows, then coming around a corner and eating you for breakfast, sucking up all the wounds in the process. The Unidrons are very strong on a table like this where, they're just behind a wall, they've got total cover, they don't need to go prone, they can't go prone. But the thing is, the way I'm going to be working this table is I'm going to be keeping a lot of the walls with the door open, so there's these very small, thin walls which normally be able to go prone behind, and the Unidrons will be forced to use the larger walls as cover, and you'll see what I mean soon. Other than that, pretty stock standard VaulSC Onyx contact list kind of thing. We'll show you my opponent's list during the game. I haven't got it written up just because he had some wacky order groups and I just wasn't really sure. So let's get into it. Let's go and find the game itself. So I started off by taking 4 photos of every sort of side of the table, and I believe this is from one side here. So if I grab the pen, and we'll get a pink out, this will do. So Onyx is going to be on this side of the table over here, and Yujing is going to be on this side of the table over here. And as you can see, what I've done is that rather than having very narrow corridors, I've kept the walls fairly wide apart. And I've also used as many of these walls that are kind of open as I can. So with these kind of walls here, what you can do is you can go right up to the edge, go prone, and you'll have cover, or you can just walk up to the edge as a silhouette too, and you'll have partial cover. But if you want total cover, you have to come behind these larger walls. And what I've done is I've actually left a ton of open space. Like this entire area here has just got no terrain in it. So despite feeling like a spaceship and looking like a spaceship interior, it's actually kind of an open table. And you'll start to see that as you see some of the closer zoomed in photos. So this is Hunting Party. Hunting Party is a dumb mission. I think it's really kind of bad just because it favors some factions more than others. My opponent wanted to play it. I didn't want to play it, but I conceded that I would let him. It's a mission where you've got to go after these 2 consoles to get some points. There are 2 classifieds to get some more points, but the meat of the points are in hunting down enemy specialists and lieutenants by isolating them or immobilizing them, I think it is. And for this game, all stun pistols count as, immobilizing because isolation is the same as immobilization in this, or it's traded for it. Certain troop types, veterans, elites, that kind of thing, get a free adhesive launcher. But yeah, it's a bit of a silly mission. It's interesting, but it's not my favorite. Here's another photo from one of the deployment zones. This will be the Yujing deployment zone. So as you can see, if you've got some big remotes, tags, that kind of thing, you can deploy behind the walls here. I have a house rule with my own terrain here, now that it's mine, that if your model is wide enough to fit through the doorway, it's also short enough. I'm not going to say that your tag bounces his head into the top of the door like this. I'm just going to say that that's open if you're a tag, right? But the walls are infinite height. One thing that this table does lack is the verticality you see on a lot of infinity tables, but I'm happy to play on this table sometimes, and then other times play on my old Bandua setup, which has the buildings and the height. Here's the table from the other side angle, so you can see there are these little spots like this where it's just completely blocked off, here and here, for example. And you can use this to really engage with the enemy and get a lot closer to them by making use of those areas, right? Whereas if you're trying to control a fire lane, you've got areas like this, you've got this massive one through here, there's an extremely long one through here, very long through here, for example. So if you're just trying to get to the other side of the table, you're still going to encounter the snipers and the things you have to worry about. And if you've got jammers and hacking, there are so many open areas to go around and flank them, which I think is such an important feature of a table like this. This one over here is my deployment zone for Onyx, and we'll have some closer looks at that. But yeah, one thing I've also done is I've made a very long board here, which is completely total cover, but it's vertical. It's towards the enemy's deployment zone. So if they're trying to attack models, which you've got down here, they only have to come down that far, or even just to this side, and they've just got an angle right through. So it is very open. Cool. First photo here is of my Noctifer missile launcher. It's in this spot here with a little blue box in deployment. I am going first this game, whereas my opponent is going to be taking the table side that he wanted. And we'll have final turn, which may matter. Let's have a look at my deployment from left to right. So left-hand deployment zone over here, there is a Doctor Worm with the slave drone on the other side of the table next to the Q drone. There's my HVT. We've got an Echidron here. This is the Nexus Hacker. The link team is as follows. So you've got Kernau, you've got the K1 Combi Rifle Deflector, Plasma Sniper. Sorry, this one here is the K1 Combi Rifle Deflector. This guy's the Forward Observer, and this is just your pleb carbine. Imatron tried to land out there, but scattered and came back here, which is a decent spot for it. And my lieutenant at the back here is going to go into suppression fire and just hope that he doesn't get hit by a drop trooper and an adhesive launcher. So that's him. And then a bit more of a close-up. As you can see, the style of the terrain really does feel like you're in the interior of some sort of facility or spaceship, and I love that vibe for infiNity. It's the one war game that can pull that off so well. On the extreme right-hand side of the table, you've got Doc Worm nearby to the Q drone and an Echidron. Echidron's great there because the repeater allows you to put assisted fire onto the drone and has this handy flamethrower in case of drop troopers. The Q drone is in total cover for now, but may move into this area potentially because there's a very long fire lane down there, and he may want to shoot whatever's going to be controlling it later on. I've also landed an Imatron out in the midfield, as you can see there. Okay, so opponent. This is his left-hand side over here, so that's going to be his left-hand side corner. We've got a Guangxi. This looks like a Sujian, but he's actually proxying it as a Mowang Red Fury NCO. There's a Guangxi control device, a Shell and Monk, and then we can see a Pheasant with some mad traps in the midfield, and then there's the engineer, I think, over there. So, in fact, I might have had them the wrong way around. I think this is the engineer, and that's the control device back in the distance. Anyway, taking a look at that. So this looks like the control device model. So you got the mad traps here attached to the Pheasant. That's pretty cool. This Osnat's representing a Krakot Renegade with one SMG who rolls up total immunity and I think Dogged or something like that. Can't remember. Total immunity or plus Fizz, something like that. This is a helper bot. We've got a Rushi, another Guangxi, and a Shell and Monk. So that's the midfield. Another Guangxi up at the distance over there. My opponent does have some stuff in reserve, drop troopers and the like. But importantly, there is a Yujing, a lieutenant hacker in the corner there, ready to supply his orders to the Mowang NCO. So I'm going to be trying to go first here to try and commit some damage, and you can sort of see on his flank here, again, this photo shows you the Yujing's position, Rushi, all of his defenders in front, and quite a good defense, really. Guangxi, Shell and Monks and Mad Traps make a great defense. Yujing's always been very good at deployment zone defense. I'm having to take photos again and again because he keeps repositioning them after I actually take the photo. Like I take the shot, then he repositions them, but they're still in roughly the same places. So there you go, and his HVT on his left-hand side nearby, quite a good-looking HVT, and again, really liking the fact that I can get in close with my phone and take photographs where the frame of the actual picture just has the interior of the table, and it really feels like you're indoors. My reserve trooper is this wonderful Umbra Samaritan. If you guys haven't noticed, I've started to completely repaint my combined army. That's why I haven't been playing them on YouTube for ages. I've put this very deep sort of pinkish red magenta color on their bases. I put the actual base slot itself with a dark gray called Dark Reaper. Yeah, I got one of these G-Dub paints called Dark Reaper, and yeah, it's quite nice because it's got a little bit of blue mixed into it, I think. It's a very sort of interesting gray color. So that's what I'm using on the actual body of a lot of my guys now, but this Umbra has had a blue cape added to him as well. My opponent, seeing that he's about to get hit by this Umbra, is setting up a single high-dow multi-sniper to cover that lane. This is the same lane that my Q-drone is ready to control, but luckily I didn't leave the Q-drone hanging out. The Q-drone will have a chance to go after this guy, but I'm just a bit worried because the Hideout ignores the mimetism and will outrange the Q-drone, so it'll be 1 shot on 13 versus 4 shots on, I think, 8s after we factor in the assisted fire. So a bit worrisome, and if I move the slave drone over to repair him if he goes down, that will also come in line of sight of the Hideout. So I've kind of messed that up a little bit. My opponent running the Hideout outside of Invincible Army, I think this is a little bit questionable. Yes, he's a good sniper, but he's very expensive, and he can be beaten by an HMG in good range band quite easily. So for all of you Yujing enthusiasts out there, my personal preference is that you would take a Guilang Sniper or Major Luna for this kind of role rather than the Hideout. That's just my opinion. Okay, so after thinking for a good 10 minutes and wasting a whole bunch of time, I don't normally do that in my games, by the way, guys. This is a casual one, and I had a very tough decision, and that's whether to move out with the Umbra or try something else with the Link team. And what I ended up doing was cautious moving, and this is one of the great benefits of the Umbra, is that cautious moves are buffed because you're a 6-2 speed rather than 4-4. So cautious moving to there, and then cautious moving over to there to avoid the very oppressive fire lane coming from that Hideout in the distance, who's got this part of the spaceship under lockdown. So again, we're playing inside of a spaceship, but you know, deployment zone to deployment zone is almost there in terms of line of sight, and you know, a sniper rifle is powerful on this table, but as soon as this guy closes the distance, the Spitfire becomes powerful and he can still get into close combat, so I feel like I've done a good job with the balance. So he's continuing to cautious move around, and of course he's had 2 orders stripped from his order pool, so this is going to have to be an efficient run. His goal, once he gets to this spot, because these walls are now blocking off line of sight to the Hideout, and he's okay from here, and nothing else can really get vision. His goal is to come around and start using a Spitfire to chew into these Guangxi here, and it's going to be really annoying if they go dogged and pass armor saves and so forth, but if I can take them both out, I can then move in and go after this Mo Wang. Mo Wang does have a heavy pistol, but if I can make it into base contact, I've got Prothean level 4, so it's 2 dice roll with martial arts, close combat level 24, so I should be able to destroy him and gain wounds from him, leaving the Umbra in the enemy deployment zone where he will be really hard to remove given the kind of army that my opponent has. So this should be devastating, and luckily, you know, Spitfire versus Guangxi pistols does pretty well. I was worried that it would take me like 4 orders to get through them, but after these Samaritan moved into the extreme long range to avoid their chain rifles and kept coming around here, I did manage to remove both of them in a relatively short amount of time, getting me to a position where the only other defender of the Mo Wang left was this guy. Now, as I moved around, I was thinking, well, what he could do is he could throw a smoke here to avoid that, or he could dodge, or there's a variety of things he can do. If he puts the smoke here, he can still use his chain rifle when I come in against the Sujian. The Mo Wang. Also, if I move over in this angle towards him, I'm going to get hit by not just the pistol, the chain rifle, or maybe the smoke, but also this guy's heavy pistol. I don't really want that because with Ballistic Skill 14, heavy pistol hitting me on an 18, and me trying to fire the Spitfire at close range, if I whiff it and he hits me with the heavy pistol, it's got shock, and my guy just gets removed from the table. Terrible outcome. So I need to cleanly get into close combat with 1 move. So to avoid his line of sight, I'll just remove this this drawing here, and we'll come back to it. I ended up moving around in this way so that I wouldn't actually get line of sight to him, because there's this little barrier here, and because his base is prone, I'm only able to see the back of it once I get really close. So to avoid that position here, I've come around, and that will get me into chain rifle range. And my thinking is that if I do that, if he chain rifles me, I shoot him and remove him, and then I can move around, and I've taken 1 chain rifle. Whereas if I move in and dodge his chain rifle, I'm going to have to move in a second time and take another chain rifle anyway, so there's going to be 1 chain rifle that I'm going to actually have to take at some point, so I may as well move and shoot him. Now, I thought that he would chain rifle me, but he didn't. He went for the smoke throw instead, which was interesting. So I just decided to shoot him, and that did manage to take out the what do you call these guys? Shaolin Monk, I think. I can't quite remember how this order played out. So I do remember I took a wound at some point, but I did kill the Shaolin monk on this side of the table. So yeah, I think he did chain rifle me at the end of the day, and I took it, failed the armor save, and then blasted him with the Spitfire. Giving me 2 more orders left in the order pool. So reasonably efficient Umbra Samaritan. Things could have gone better, things could have gone worse, but he's made it. So he comes around the corner, swinging into close combat, but you guys have to bear in mind that he's standing, the Mowangs are prone, and above his body, we can see into the distance and get shot again by the Hai Dao, and by pistols from more Guangxi and Shaolin monks. So I have to try and beat him in close combat and stave off the hits. The thing is, if I get really a good roll in close combat and I absorb 2 wounds, that's going to make up for the wounds that the enemy will probably cause me with a sniper rifle, right? So charging around into close combat, I've already suffered 1 wound, so I need to do pretty well here. And these guys all shoot back at me. We've got the Hai Dao. Turns out the Rushi is blocked. The line of sight from the Rushi's front arc starts here, and to get a line through this guy didn't quite work because he's a silhouette too, and the Umbra is directly on the other side of that line that I'm dotting across there. So Rushi couldn't attack. These guys fired their pistol and found that they were out of range, further than 24, but the sniper shot hit me dead in the face and ended up inflicting a wound. But the Umbra also absorbed a wound from the Mowang. So then we get this picture where you can see here there's a wound marker next to the Mowang, there's a wound marker next to the Umbra, and this guy's already taken a shot, and now I'm in close combat where I can continue to try and absorb wounds, and the Hai Dao, if it shoots into close combat, risks blasting the Mowang, and he doesn't have a doctor on the board, so interesting situation to be in. With just 1 mortar left, I really dearly wanted to reposition my Link team because I deployed them under the assumption I'd be able to move up into cover. But with this opportunity here, I can't afford to lose the Umbra at this point. I need to try and capitalize on all the good work he's done getting to close combat. So swing in the blade, Prathian level 24. As I was coming in, I was up against the heavy pistol shot, which had +3. Now that I'm in close combat, he's just a flat close combat stat, and we go for the swing and hits him twice, but unluckily for me, he actually tanks both of the saves, which was annoying, and I didn't get crits on either roll. So a little bit unlucky towards the end. But the turn sort of balanced itself out, really, because I was really relatively good with killing the Guangxi. Like, things could have gone badly there, but they didn't. Whereas things could have gone badly here with the close combat, and they kind of did, right? We're expecting more damage to be done to the Mowang, but that didn't happen. So it's all kind of evened out so far in this particular turn, I feel. Okay, elsewhere, Lieutenant going to suppression fire, Link team's just hanging around. I'm moving my hacker, decided to go this way, but then changed his mind, came all the way back around here behind the obstacle, and we're going to be moving on. So my opponent, Impetuous Phase, Shaolin Monk's moving up, throwing smoke down. He is aware that there's a Noctifer out there somewhere, or at least suspects it very greatly, so just throwing down smokes to prepare that and have the Hai Dao protected. Guangxi just moving around. Some of his models are now magnetized towards the position of my Umbra because, you know, closest enemy target, but the enemy target is in your deployment zone now, so they're sort of moving to one side of it, if you can picture that. Krakot Renegade also moving out, taking advantages of Impetuous. Nobody's able to get shot at by my Noctifer or my Plasma Sniper at this point. We've made the table very open, but also, like any other good infiNity table, also there are some parts of it that are congested and are restricted that you can make use of your Impetuous troopers and take advantage of that. So what are we seeing here? This is the table layout. We've had the Krakot and the Guangxi run in this direction towards the position of my Unidrons up there. So I'll move this down here a little bit. The Hai Dao is just hanging out there, he's fine. But the Shaolin Monk is moving across this way, and his plan for this turn is to move the Shaolin Monk into close combat with the Umbra. The Shaolin Monk is going to be slightly better than the Umbra because although his CC stat is, I think, 22, he gets Martial Arts level 3, +1 burst from his friend, whereas I've only got +1 burst from Prathian level 4. So odds are that he should take me out, but this is risky. We'll talk about this in a moment. So that's his plan. So here he comes, Shaolin Monk moving around, just spending a lot of orders in Group 2. I've already reduced his army by several orders, so you know, he doesn't have a lot to work with, and then in he comes, and he decides to throw the Shaolin Monk in there to get into close combat. Now let's just sit back and talk about this for a sec. If he doesn't do this, he needs to shoot into close combat with, say, the sniper or the Rushi, and that may cause more damage onto the Mo Wang, and it can't be repaired later, so it's risky if he does that. This is slightly less risky, because the worst that can happen is that he loses his Shaolin Monk and gives the Umbra even more wounds. The worst thing he could probably do is just ignore the Umbra and just do nothing, because then in my follow-up turn, another round of close combat ensues, the Umbra potentially goes up to several wounds, the Mo Wang disappears, and I can move and maybe outshoot his back line, and it's just an absolute disaster. So because I've played well enough to get the Umbra into this position, and I haven't been, super dreadfully unlucky, he now has to take a bit of a risk, which is to move the Shaolin in there. I'm not going to open Dice Calculator, you guys can check out the math if you want, but if you think CC 22, I think it is, going up to 25, and me going from 24 down to 21, and we're both throwing 2 dice, he should win most of the time. But if he doesn't win, and if he fails to say, let's say I get 1 crit and like I roll a low number, and he gets 2 results that are not crits, the Shaolin then dies, the Umbra goes back up to a total of 1 wound with NWI still in the pocket, and he spent a whole bunch of regular orders trying to do that only to reward me. So you guys can see how bad that is. Luckily for him, that doesn't eventuate. The Shaolin Monk does come in with his Kung Fu stick and kills the Umbra, and Yujing can breathe a sigh of relief here. So Krakot just hanging out. He doesn't want to come around the corner at this point. The Quan Chi and the Krakot don't want to sort of move through this angle, because this is where all of the firepower and plasma is trained. So we've got this sort of area, cut off at the moment, well defended, but they're getting in a position for later in the game. What we have now is the Mo Wang moving out. So Mo Wang's moving out towards this area now with his own group, so he's going to be looking to do some damage. Moving around here, and the first thing he's going to be trying to do is get line of sight to one of my Imitrons in the middle. So he does that, moves out to this objective, goes behind the billboard, ad board, and blasts this Imitron here out in the midfield. Initially, he was going to go suppression fire there, but I kindly, being the kind, friendly player that I am, reminded him that he has the NCO rule, just this little rule that, you take the Mo Wang for, and he was like, oh, I can't believe I forgot that. So we retracted that and moved him back to a different position, where he instead went prone and just came back here and went suppression fire prone over here. So he's got a bit of a look around this side. But he's still towards the middle of the table, right? So back to my turn. What I'm going to do here, this is, first turn, decisive Umbra turn. Second turn, I'm just going to go straight into the Link team now that I've got 10 orders back, because Umbra has died. I've moved somebody else from Group 2 to Group 1, and nobody else has really died. So 10 orders on Group 1. I'm going to try and hit him really hard with the Plasma Link team, take up a position in the midfield, and try and dominate the game after that in terms of attrition, and quite easily score the points for hunting down enemies in the final turn. That is the strategy here. So assisted fire from Group 2 goes on to the Unidron Plasma Sniper. Everybody's trekking out, hiking their way through the spaceship, and looking for Yujing people to murder. Now the first obstacle is going to happen when we reach this pillar here, and we're going to come into direct line of fire of the Hideout Sniper. This is a Unidron Plasma Sniper in a full Link team with assisted fire, so 3 dice needing 17s, and any hit is going to be a plasma hit that ignores cover and has shock, up against 1 Hideout Sniper who's going to be hitting on a 13. My opponent quite cleverly opts to go for stun round, which was a very smart move, I must admit. He's made some misplays this game, and I feel like is being outplayed in general, but has his moments. So Hideout Sniper there, everybody else is trying to sort of wait because they don't want to come into his line. We just need to remove him, and then we can come over that side. But if the stun happens, then I can't keep shooting at him. If he uses regular ammunition, the best he can do is put me into dogged state, unconscious level 2 dogged. And I can keep shooting at him after that, but if he stuns me, I can't really do much about it. And the turn grinds to a halt, and my Link team's out there having done no work. So that would be bad. But, 3 dice on 17s versus 1 dice on 13, how bad could it be? Now, you might be thinking, we've got this boy here, Kurnow, and he's got a hacking device with white noise upgrade. What we could do is put white noise down here, and that will subtract a further -6 to the Hideout's chances, which is pretty terrible for him. I didn't do that, A, because I forgot, But B, even if I'd remembered, I still wouldn't have done it, because you have to spend a whole nother order putting it in place. You might fail the whip check and not even get it down. We need as many orders as we can for killing stuff on the other side of the board and for moving. And to be honest, 3 dice on 17s versus 1 dice on 13 is pretty safe. And I was expecting him to fire back a regular round anyway, and I could have relied on Dogged. What ends up happening is he fires the stun round, wins the face-to-face roll, much to my disgust. And luckily, you know, the BTS 6 value of the Unidrons comes to save the day, and I pass the checks. Because he's got cover plus BTS 6, so he's very well defended against the stun. My opponent, realizing that he hadn't accounted for that, and switches back ammunition. But the second attempt does blow the hideout completely away, like absolutely rocks him off his socks, and he dies. So we can move on. Now, moving towards this obstacle here, we know that the Mo Wang is nearby. So what we're doing first here with our boy Kernau is we're moving him in as a link team, and he's going to drop 2 pitches next to the position of the Mo Wang. And the beautiful thing about this is we've still got a couple of spare orders in Group 2 for our hacker. And the hacker is then able to use a gotcha onto the Mo Wang to drop his suppression fire, or even worse, immobilize him, so that Kernau can come and shoot him for free. So our boy here, instead of resetting, is just going to try and tank it. He doesn't want to drop suppression fire, because he knows that if he does, things are going to be problematic. You can see the sneaky Kernau alien face in the distance there, firing these 2 white tokens, which are pitches, onto the field. And he does both of them successfully, so if my opponent does live and he does react in his turn, I can hack him as an ARO. But the hacker does come into play here and does in fact immobilize him, so things looking really good. So Kernau moving into position. Another interesting game play happens here. So we've got Kernau moving to the specific spot where he can see this Shaolin monk. Now what I thought he would do is I thought he would sacrifice himself and throw a smoke around here where the Mo Wang actually is. If he does that, it's not a face-to-face roll. He's got a 16 or less to get the smoke in place. And that will mean that the team has to take the Mo Wang on in close combat, which is not really as reliable or secure as just blasting him in the face. My opponent doesn't do that. He instead opts to go for the face-to-face to keep the Shaolin monk alive, feeling that he would actually prefer that I try and shoot the Mo Wang, because he feels that he can actually reset with the Mo Wang and basically have a better chance at defending with his shooting. And I kind of disagree with that, but he made that call. And what ends up happening is the Shaolin monk promptly loses against Kernau's beefy plasma gun and dies. He's trying to put the smoke down there, but it doesn't succeed and he gets wiped. And then we have our friendly hacker over here, making sure that the Mo Wang is severely immobilized, and then we go around. So Kernau and his boys setting everybody up into position before we go after the Mo Wang, and this is a 10 order group, by the way, 10 order turn. We're moving in with a plasma sniper. He does have a pheasant over here who can get shot on a thin angle from the plasma here, so this is easily able to remove the... it's just so much fun using this link team. If you guys like the look of Onyx models, I really recommend this faction. It's just such a blast to play. So plasma sniper sets up, absolutely wipes him out with superior firepower. Just so damaging, and we can move on to the big prize. So with a few orders left, I think 2, Kernau is able to poke out around the corner. Kernau will not get cover, but he doesn't really need it, because the Mo Wang fails his first reset attempt and is still immobilized, and as I come around the corner, he has to take the brunt of 4 plasma shots, which really cause a lot of pain. Unluckily for me, my opponent rolls really well with all of the armor saves and BTS checks and survives with 1 wound in NWI. And he does reset, so now I have to go up against the heavy pistol, but luckily that works out pretty well as well, and he's completely obliterated by the end of the turn. So that was cool. Go Unidrons, everybody sets up here, and importantly, plasma sniper in cover, Kernau in cover, this guy behind the obstacle there. This is the forward observer in total cover. We're going to count this gap as like filled. That's actually not able to be seen through. This guy hanging out the back here. So pretty good. He's really been wrecked here. He's lost his Pheasant, he's lost his Mowang, he's lost the last of his Shell and Monks here. So my opponent really low on orders. It's not going to stop him from trying though, so we've got a little bit of repositioning from the Guangxi and the Krakot in his turn. Just setting up for better plays later on if you can make them. Then his Lieutenant Dao Ying using a Lieutenant order to put up controlled jump, and here comes the play. Here comes the play. My opponent is sort of hovering around my deployment zone for like the entire game so far, and I can tell what he's trying to do. But I thought I had my deployment zone so well defended that he wouldn't dare having a crack at it. He knows he's losing the game. He knows he's being beat here pretty badly, so he has to make a high risk play, and that's the right thing to do. You've got to try and play for the win. You've got to try and hope that luck swings back. At the very least that can happen is that you stay losing, right? As opposed to anything else happening. But by making the bold plays, you could potentially get ahead. So Yujing dropping right on the side. Yujing, I think, landing on like a 15 or a 16. Hack transport, I believe, is forced here. So I'm hacking on a 7. Whereas he's landing in front of the Dr. Worm, who has a pistol, which I'm going to use as a stun pistol to immobilize him. And I believe there's also a flash pulse elsewhere nearby to be able to shoot him. I do have a Noctifer with an angle, but I don't want to reveal the Noctifer because I feel like if I do, it might be shown that I'm actually just out of line of sight, and I want to lay a trap for him as he moves out. Now, annoyingly, he wins the roll to land, and he had a good chance of doing that. I mean, if it's on a 16, I can't remember whether it's a 15 or a 16. Hack transport only reduces that by a small amount, so I don't have the maths in front of me, but I think the Yujing's chance of landing here are around about 55 to 65% in that sort of vicinity, so it's decent odds. But again, it's such a big risk. If he fails and scatters, probably game over. Also, by landing there, he's got to take a free hit from a stun pistol, which may immobilize him. Again, probably game over. His explosion causes an armor save on both of these troopers. If one of them survive it, that's going to cause them some more trouble in a moment. What ends up happening is he planks the landing, he gets it perfect. The explosion kills the doctor and kills the hacker immediately. The stun pistol hits him and he tanks both of the stun armor saves that you've got to take. And he's fine. So I'm like steaming in my chair there. I'm like, what? So he lands here, he plonks it, and then what he does is he whips out his stun pistol, shoots both of the specialists to hunt them down, putting them in the lead with the objective points for now. So that was just, I couldn't believe it. Then he's going to move out here and fire his adhesive launcher, and he's moving slightly, firing his adhesive launcher at my lieutenant. Now my lieutenant is positioned so his line of fire is here, because he's basically just covering the back line in case there's a drop there. I felt like I had this whole area covered as well because I've got two guys there to cover it. I've got a flash pulse through here, and I've even got a freaking Noctifer through this angle as well, right? So I figured like as he's coming in, I'm going to be able to do something to him. But no, none of that worked. The adhesive launcher goes off. An adhesive launcher is just one shot, right? So he's got to get one dice to hit through cover, and I have a chance to save it if I roll low. None of that happens. Lieutenant gets hunted down as well, and I'm like, so unlucky. My opponent doing really well here. The Noctifer, I believe, whiffs the shot at this point, and I'm just steaming, right? There's the Noctifer there. He's got a long angle, and it's just like this game was going so well, and now suddenly I'm really on the back foot. It's going to be very hard to win now. So that was awful. That was just absolutely awful. Rushi now moving out, and the Rushi's plan is to move into here and sacrifice himself. He's going to try and nail Kurnau at the back here. I think long range with the Spitfire. No, initially he's going up against the Plasma Sniper. Now this is a risk. I don't need to tell you guys it's a risk. He's going to have to get through Dogged, and you know I'll still probably have a 4-man link team going into the rest of the game. He's shooting on 15s. I'm hitting on 17s on 2 dice. If he moves into line of sight of multiple models, the Rushi is probably going to die straight away. I've just been extremely unlucky up against the Yujing. Luckily, it swings back my way a little bit with the Rushi doing badly here, although he's going up against some pretty nasty odds as it is. And after a couple of attempts to try and take down Kurnau, the Rushi is destroyed. And fortunately for me, the Unidron Link team survives this. So luck going backward and forward. Do you guys think it's even at the moment? I don't, but as a neutral bystander, you definitely might be rewarded for saying, yeah, it's swinging back and forward. I'm getting unlucky. I'm getting lucky. I'm getting unlucky. I'm getting lucky. Moving on. So Rushi's been completely obliterated at this point by plasma. It's just a smoldering wreck over here. These mad traps are no longer active because the pheasant's dead, and yeah, not much more to do on this side of the table. So there you go. We've also got suppression fire going down on his engineer or whatever it is over in this corner. I may not have to walk past him. He's got an angle along quite like this, so if the link team moves out, they can move down here, and there's no line of sight from that door to this model, so link team fully operational and can move out. So this will be my last turn, and there's one way to win. I'm definitely losing at this point. Like, the game's suddenly gone really badly because of that one stupid play that he made, but I still have my link team intact. So what I can do is press the button on the console to get a point. There are two classifieds that I've got which I can complete. Like, one of them is the one where you have an elite trooper in your opponent's side of the table, just pass a whip check. And the other one is have a hacker near to the enemy HVT, which is right there, and pass a willpower -3. So that's 3 points I can pick up, plus I can go over to the other side of the table, kill everything that's in the way, and hunt down his lieutenant easily. I'll show you how soon. And that will put me on like 7 points, whereas he will have like my lieutenant plus specialist, so he'd have about 6, so I'd be ahead. But I have to do things quite efficiently here, as you guys can appreciate. So initially, we press the button on the console. That is collected for Combined Army now, and Kurnow moving out, trying to do the classified where he takes the hacker, but fails it. It's whip -3, so I think what I'll do is I'll spend a couple of orders from Group 2 at the end of this, moving over and taking his HVT to pick that one up instead. So the link team now moving out along the table. We've got 10 orders for this, or close to 10 orders, plus the lieutenant order for Kurnow, which I did use. So Kurnow reforming the link team after spending his lieutenant order, and then going after the Krakot, easily blasting him with, burst 4 plasma and a full link team, so Krakot, not a chance. Continues moving around here, firing at the Guangxi. Again, it's just one Guangxi. We've got a plasma gun. We've got a full link team. It's hitting on 18s. I can't get that unlucky, so the Krakot does die. Next up, we're moving closer towards the position of the hacker. My opponent didn't put him back into camo marker state, which is a bit of a mistake in my view. He's now vulnerable. The thinking here is that I can use Maestro, which is a very powerful hacking program, +3 to me, -3 to him, but it will specifically put him into unconscious, which is exactly where he needs to be for me to stun him and isolate him effectively, because if he's not, then he can just reset in his final turn. So you can see me here moving to try and get into range of his hacker, while the rest of the team stays back so they don't get hacked. And I've got a deflector there, so Kurnow, the odds of him beating the Yujing are just crazy good with a deflector and Maestro up against a single gotcha from one guy. So he rolls the dice, gets his 11, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a miss, and the Maestro goes off. Then we look up his willpower, check it. He's willpower 14. Maestro subtracts 3 from that. 11's a crit, and Kurnow just dies. Just dies. After all of those orders spent, he just dies. And I'm just like, how freaking unlucky could I possibly be? So he's coming into range, and this is the point where he just reaches range and whack, dead. So he's unconscious. In desperation, I'm reforming the link team. I've still got orders left. The K1 combi rifle picks up the slack, moves around and blasts this model in the distance. We're getting hacked in the process. We've got a deflector in BTS-6, so luckily we're surviving. So we're shooting up this model in the distance. Then we're moving around. We're still getting hacked. And finally moving into a spot where we can fire the stun pistol with a link team bonus. Only a 4-man link team now. But this does succeed in stunning the Yujing. Okay? So that means we've both hunted down each other's lieutenants. He's got more specialists than me, but I've picked up one of the consoles. So playing for a draw at this point, I've got the Noctifer, which does a single short skill move out, fires a missile over at the Yujing to luckily destroy it, and then spending one more order in Group 2 to move 8 inches over to capture the HVT, and just hoping at that point that my opponent's just got nothing left. So there we are there. With a single order left in Group 1, I decided to move around again and keep shooting at him, just because I wanted to bring more guys into line of sight of him. Because if in his turn he spends a single order resetting, and if I fail to stun him a second time, that breaks him out of the hunter down state. So the Unidrons all move around, I have another shot at him, he goes for his reset, I completely whiff all of the stun shots, so even in my turn he actually comes out of that hunter down state, causing me to lose this game by a massive margin. My opponent also then reveals to me that he actually has a Tiger Soldier in his list, so in his final turn he just spends the Tiger Soldier's order coming on the side of the table to collect my HVT, so really I just didn't stand a chance after that Yujing play. As you guys can see, I played my heart out this game. I had a lot of fun. Unidron firepower is just amazing to behold, but this mission's kind of dumb, and I did get kind of unlucky, didn't I? I mean, that Yujing play was just gold. Imagine what this game would have been like if the Yujing had scattered and landed in front of something that just shoots him, or if he scatters off the table and has to deal with the Unidron team, for example, and has collected no objective points. Or if he lands and maybe causes the hacker to go unconscious, but the doctor stuns him in the face and immobilizes him. Imagine if that happens. He can't hunt them down. I can revive my hacker. There's so many different ways it can go. But hey, it's a game of infinity. There are always so many different ways that the game can go. So we enjoyed that game. Hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I think that this table worked out a treat. It played really, really well. We were both really happy with how the actual game went based on the lines of sight and so forth. The sniper was useful on both sides. I didn't get to use my HMG just coincidentally, but I could have. The missile launcher came into play. We had close combat, we had smoke going off, we had Spitfires and plasma guns coming in the right range bands. It felt really good, and I can't wait to show you guys more games on this awesome table. And I'm going to be painting it up even more to get some of the panels and plates different colors just to make it look really convincing. Thank you guys for watching as always. Hope you had a good time. I'm VaulSC. We'll see you next one.